Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Tuesday evening. Lovely to have you guys here for another episode of the Prime Time Show. Boom or bust. That is what we're going to take a look at tonight with the Titans free agent additions. Who is most likely to boom or succeed in 2024 based on the players that this team brought in, either via free agency or via trade. We'll talk about Leroy Watson and L'Jarius Sneed, of course, and then who's most likely to have bust potential based on who the Titans sign, because for every good move, there is usually a corresponding bad move. And as we know at this time of year, everything can feel good. Everything looks good before the pads come on and things start to fray. But there is a significant potential for at least one of these contracts to not work out in their favor. And so we're going to take a look at the contract most likely to bust that the Titans gave out this offseason. We got a gone viral video for you at the end of the show. It's the holiday season in the summertime. It's got me thinking fireworks, which always has tremendous results and will be the focus of our gone viral video. But before we get to the end of the show, we got to start the show. Before we start the show, you got to share this show around wherever you are spending time with us, because we love you, but we always love when we see new faces and new names in the comment section. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or on Twitch, please like the video, subscribe to the channel while you're there, and tell a friend to do the same. We would be grateful for you that way. And once you've done all of those things, we can go ahead and get the primetime program started on this Tuesday night. Welcome into A to Z Sports Primetime from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at TrueMav Fitness. Go to TrueMavFitness.com. Your first workout is free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, nobody goes above and beyond for your fitness goals like TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Two Rivers Ford, quality American-made Ford vehicles from the South's most trusted Ford dealer. That's Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or just 7 miles east of BNA at tworiversford.com. And Zen Sports, up to $100 on your no danger first wager in the Zen Sports app. Download the app and plug in the promo code ATOZTN today to get in on all the great action. Zen Sports, where betting just got better. Free agent and trade acquisitions that the Tennessee Titans made this offseason. You've seen some people praise them for their offseason strategy. You've seen some people pan them for overpaying at a couple of different positions. And there does seem to be mixed reviews, largely on how it is that this team went about addressing all the different needs that they had. And they had a lot. We've talked about this. Basically, every player that this team has added since the new league year began in March is going to be a starter for them. Chidobe Awuzie, L'Jarius Sneed, provided things go to plan. Kenneth Murray, of course, Lloyd Cushenberry. You look at all the different players that they've added. Sebastian Joseph Day is probably going to play a meaningful role for the Titans, even if Tavondre Sweat works out. Every player that they've added is going to fill some kind of void in some way, shape, or form. So when we talk about the players that they've added, some will thrive because they're going to have opportunity, and some will inevitably fall short of expectation. It doesn't have to be Andre Dillard, but there still is going to be a contract that leaves you underwhelmed. So tonight we're going to take a look at those contracts and talk about who is most likely to boom of the free agent and trade acquisitions and who is most likely to bust. We'll talk about these things together. We'll start with the good stuff. Good news first. Who is most likely to boom in the Titans' new system, offense or defense? Which player do you think is most likely to succeed that this team added in the offseason? Not draft picks, just free agent acquisitions and trades. So there are a variety of different players that fall under that category, and a lot of them who are new to this team this year. Like I said, Kenneth Murray, Chidobe Awuzie, Lloyd Cushenberry, Tony Pollard. We talk about Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Sebastian Joseph Day. There's a couple of different players that you can look at and say, well, it makes sense that they would get an opportunity here. For example, Sadiq Charles. It makes sense that Sadiq Charles should at least start training camp as the starting right guard. That's a new acquisition. They also have additional bodies at left tackle and right tackle who will probably, if not outright win the job, in the case of J.C. Latham, he's going to be the left tackle, but can be the swing tackle, or in the case of Leroy Watson, perhaps the starting right tackle. Which player is most likely to boom, trend upwards, succeed on the contract that they've acquired based on the number of players that they went out and got this offseason? We'll talk about it together. It's your Two Rivers Ford Take. It's presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, where they are currently offering you up to $8,000 off your 2024 Ford Expedition. It's Expedition month at Two Rivers Ford. You can go check out their Expeditions or any of their quality American-made Ford vehicles, whether they are new or certified pre-owned. Two Rivers Ford always puts you in the driver's seat as the customer to make the car buying process fast, easy, and, of course, fun. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. All right, so of the acquired players, who is most likely to boom? Who is most likely to succeed here in Tennessee? Murray, says Gary Dupree. He is bullish on Kenneth Murray. I don't think that's going to be a popular opinion because Kenneth Murray is one of the more suspect contracts that they handed out based on production. Let's see. God help Miss Amy's checkbook, says Devin Mills, if Levis shows out after that Lawrence contract. Well, that's why it benefits Will Levis to be a second-round pick, because he will get to a payday sooner if things go to plan. Boom, says Corey D. Jackson. Tyler Boyd, who we did not mention, but of course, one of several wide receiver acquisitions that this team made. Corey D. Jackson thinks he's going to thrive. Amar says Snead. Boyd for Richie. The real 8, says Chris Frazier. Well, he's not a free agent acquisition. Talking about Will Levis, he is a draft pick. So there is a lot of love for Tyler Boyd in particular. I think that when you look at a couple of different players that this team added, the player that they need to succeed the most is Lloyd Cushenberry. The player that I feel is the most foolproof or the least suspect is Lloyd Cushenberry. And we've talked to a lot of different players, including Lloyd himself, about the impact that he will make. This is Peter Skoronski, the former Titans first-round pick, speaking on the addition of a veteran center to help him do his job and help things get organized at the line of scrimmage for this team.
Kush is obviously not the tallest guy, but definitely a really powerful player. JC's build speaks for itself. So definitely makes my job easier, especially in the run game in terms of that. And then just obviously there's a communication aspect to that too. But they both seem like they're really on top of things. So it's definitely a huge help having both those guys.
So that's Peter Skoronski speaking on Lloyd Cushenberry. A to Z Sports Primetime is presented by the wonderful people at TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMathFitness.com, where your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMath always goes above and beyond to put you in position to succeed. Go and get the best training staff at the best facility in the best workout in downtown Nashville. TrueMathFitness.com. Make sure you tell them that A to Z Sports sent you. So Lloyd Cushenberry is the player that I think is most likely to boom here. He signed this offseason a deal that gave him the highest percentage of guaranteed money that a center has ever made. The contract that he signed here in Tennessee was for 4 years, $50 million. That gives him an average annual salary of $12.5 million. He got $26 million guaranteed at signing and a total of $30 million guaranteed at 27 years old. This will be the most cost-effective year of his deal. He only counts against the cap for 6.42. That goes up to 14.52 next year. They have a potential out as a 2-year, $30 million deal if things start to trend in the wrong direction, but they do have him under contract until 2028 right now on that 4-year deal. I think he's the most important acquisition, not named Bill Callahan, that this team made this offseason. Lloyd Cushenberry whatever Pro Football Focus wants to rank him, they grade him as one of the best centers, and in particular, one of the best pass blocking centers in all of football. He only allowed 14 total pressures in pass protection last year, and he has been adept at that throughout the course of his entire career, starting as a rookie all 16 games of his rookie season and going on to continue to succeed for that offense at a high level. Again, total of 14 pressures. Only one sack is credited to Lloyd Cushenberry in 18 games that he did appear in, or excuse me, in 17 games that he did appear in last season for the Denver Broncos. And for Denver, he was an invaluable part of their pass game, and he didn't allow that sack until the final week of the regular season in Week 18, where Denver was already mathematically eliminated. Justin Simmons, why isn't he on the team, says Devin Mills, because he's asking for too much money, and you just saw a team like the Chargers go out and pay Tony Jefferson instead of giving real money to a safety, so that kind of tells you where the safety market's at. MB said, that being said, we would have to know who Cushenberry went up against, talking about what specifically you would have to know who Cushenberry went up against. Well, I mean, I've got the game-by-game pressure logs, and I could go back and find for you. It would take me a little more time than I have presently right now to tell you exactly who got the pass rush reps on Lloyd Cushenberry, but they play Vegas twice a year, so you know Max Crosby's involved. They played teams like the Chicago Bears, who've got a good front, the New York Jets, who had a good defense, if nothing else, the Cleveland Browns, where he allowed one quarterback hit, and it was the only pressure that he allowed during that game. Teams like Houston, who had a solid pass rush with Will Anderson Jr., and the Chargers, who had one of the league's best pass rushes, at least by sack totals last season. So he held up pretty well against some solid competition, solid to above average competition. But I do think that he is the safest of the group that they added. He is the least likely to have variance with his performance, Lloyd Cushenberry, and that's why I feel confident in his succeeding here in Tennessee. And, you know, it doesn't hurt that we've talked to Peter Skoronski about this, about not just Lloyd Cushenberry, but about J.C. Latham. And we've played this clip for you before, but Peter Skoronski sat down with me a couple of weeks ago at Mandatory Minicamp, and we talked about this very subject.
As it relates to JC, obviously, who you're going to work with primarily, work alongside with, and Lloyd, just I guess how the benefit of the two of them, one who's new to the NFL, obviously, but high-level athlete, obviously a former first-round pick like yourself, and then Lloyd, who was a full, I think he started for his entire rookie season and has been a full-time starter since then, and the invaluable nature of that knowledge, having a center like that to play alongside.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, center is such a cerebral position in a lot of ways, especially in this offense. So it's really good to have someone who's got a lot of experience under their belt and is also just like a really smart, cerebral guy with a really good demeanor. And that's Lloyd. And I think we're lucky to have someone like that in the middle. So yeah, it's a huge help to me as a guard. I think you rely so much on center communication. And I think it'll be a huge help to JC too, because, it goes down the line. So, just kind of an anchor there in terms of not just physically, but mentally.
So that is Peter Skoronski speaking about two of his new teammates with the left tackle in J.C. Latham, the first-round pick, and Lloyd Cushenberry, who they added to fortify the middle of that offense. Devin says, what you can't see is all the reporters waiting for an interview off screen. That's right. We keep them waiting because no, I'm kidding. Wait, that was just coincidental. It was not intentional for me to keep the entire press corps waiting while I was conducting interviews. But, I got to conduct my interviews. And if they got to wait for the interview, then they got to wait for the interview. This is how these things go. And I'm not going to say that my time is more valuable, but I'm going to treat it more valuably than the rest of everybody. That's okay. Ching Bing says, Buck after dark with the silk shirt on. Oh, you like my my A to Z? I've always told Austin and Zach, these make me feel like I'm going to I'm a part of the geek squad at Best Buy. But either way, they're very comfortable. We like these A to Z. These are the OG A to Z shirts. These are the Nike Golf A to Z shirts. They're very, very comfortable. So we're very happy about that. Although I could use some new ones. These are about 6 years old. Either way, we don't have to get bogged down in fashion. We're talking offensive line. Amar says, Buck got the plug on the player interviews. Well, I do. So, the benefit for you guys and for me as a product of all the different jobs that I do is that the radio show is on the Titans flagship station. So we have a contractual obligation with the team to get a certain amount of access, and that also pays dividends because I can do exclusives that we can also do for A to Z, and to provide additional access for the A to Z audience alongside the radio audience. So I have multiple outlets to provide you with content and for the team to reach its fans via the wonderful platforms that I have at my disposal, be it 104.5 The Zone and all their radio and digital properties, as well as A to Z Sports. So we've got a very well-rounded approach to making sure that you guys get as much Titans content as humanly possible. So speaking of trying to get the most out of these players, as much as humanly possible, inevitably, one of these contracts will blow up in their face. I don't know who it's going to be, but I have a pretty decent guess. And the question that I'm going to ask you is this: which of the Titans' offseason acquisitions, free agent or trade, so that's L'Jarius Sneed, Leroy Watson, let's say Sebastian Joseph Day, Tyler Boyd, which of these players do you think is most likely to bust? If Lloyd Cushenberry is going to boom, who is going to bust of the players that this team gave contracts to this offseason? We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the Primetime program is presented by the wonderful people at the True Man Fitness in the Gulch. No, excuse me, Zen Sports. Already told you about True Man Fitness. Had to catch my place. Zen Sports is where you get in on all the action. Now, you can't bet on the Stanley Cup Game 5 tonight because it's already underway between the Panthers and the Oilers. Edmonton leads 1-0 with 11:20 to go in the first period. But you can always bet all your favorite major sports. For example, if this goes Game 6, the entire Major League Baseball season. We've got UFL games going on right now. We will soon have football back in our lives. All the sports that you want to bet on are available to you with the promo code ATOZTN in the Zen Sports app. Download it today. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus in Tennessee to bet. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789 for Zen Sports. So which contract is most likely to bust based on the contracts that this team gave out? Caleb Meadows says Kenneth Murray, Rashid, Sebastian Day. MB says Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard has a bit of a boom or bust connotation to him. And this was something that we talked about with Nate Tice, right? Nate brought this up with Tony Pollard being, I think he called him a little boom or busty for his taste in this offense in the interview that we did with Nate last Tuesday, as a matter of fact, a week ago, where we broke down the different ways that this scheme is going to help the players win. Pollard, I feel pretty good about with Spears. The contract itself is not like outright offensive to me. He's on a deal that is pretty cost effective, 3 years, $21.75 million over the life of that deal. The other contracts that they gave out, just for reference, Cheeto Awuzie, 3 years, 36. You've got Calvin Ridley, 4 years, 92, which was regarded as a bit of an overpay at $23 million a year for Calvin Ridley. By the way, which I agree, but I also acknowledge that the Titans are a way better team with Calvin Ridley and should have overpaid to acquire his services. L'Jarius Sneed, a trade for L'Jarius Sneed that comes with a 4-year, $76.4 million contract that averages 19.1 over the life of his deal, and then a Tyler Boyd 1-year deal and a Kenneth Murray 2-year deal that are for significantly less money, but are also pretty critical to the success of this football team, because in the case of Tyler Boyd, you're putting a lot of responsibility on him to help basically the rest of the offense streamline the process of learning this offense. And then in Kenneth Murray, you don't have many off-ball linebackers. And to give him a 2-year, $15.5 million deal is probably the place that I would go first and foremost when I'm talking about bust potential. Kenneth Murray has not been a good player consistently throughout the course of his career. And that is probably the place that I would look first and foremost. I do think that corner, given that they spent so much money on corner this offseason, corner has the largest variance at any position. If you're going to invest a ton of money in corner, you have to be prepared for the moment when the officiating doesn't go in your favor, or they just get flat out beat because the athletes are incredible. You have to understand that the timeline for a corner having a sustained run of success is much, much shorter. I don't think any corner really lasts at an elite level for longer than 4 and maybe 5 seasons at this point. And you're buying high on L'Jarius Sneed as a 2-time Super Bowl champion and an all-pro snub last year. Should have been an all-pro, was not an all-pro. So I understand that Sneed and Awuzie have some level of variance to them just because of the position that they play. And also you're getting them, I won't say close to the end of their careers because Sneed is only 27, but for a corner, that goes very quickly. Kenneth Murray is the place that I'm going to look first and foremost, though, just because that was the contract that confused me the most of any that they handed out, understanding that it was a poor off-ball linebacker market, and they did try to keep Azeez Al-Shaair. Kenneth Murray is probably the one who has the biggest red flag around him, or the biggest, I don't know, the biggest gut feeling red flag around him, just because to date his performance has been largely poor.
Exactly, and that's what it is. Obviously coming out, this kid was highly touted. He did a good job down with the Chargers. I almost said San Diego, but he did a good job with the Chargers and whatnot. And now we see a guy that's a big-time athlete. He's an extremely smart kid. We just want to turn him loose and let him go. He kind of likes being in between the lines, and, hopefully we can get him out on the edges a little bit and let him play free and do what he does best.
And Frank, I'm sorry if you talked about Cedric right out of the gate, but what do you like what you see in him on tape, and what will your message be to him right out of the gate? I like the athlete, like the athleticism. I like that he's a smart kid. Looks like he's in the right place at the right time, doing all the right things. And he seems to be a kid that can fix his mistakes. We saw some stuff early in the season where, he had a hiccup here or there, but later in the season those things didn't show up. And he seemed to be getting better and better and better. And, hopefully, that arrow's still trending as we get him. And James Williams, one more from me. This transition as he makes his way to linebacker, how will you handle that with him?
Well, baby steps. Obviously he's got the size, he's got the speed. He's a tough kid. He's got the mentality, and that was the most important thing for me, was to get the kid that was willing to make that transition. And now we just got to give him some tools. The thing he lacks most is tools, not from an athletic standpoint, but from a linebacker standpoint. So we got to bring him along slowly. We've done it before. We had a kid by the name of Mark Barron that, we kind of moved in the box, and that worked out for us. And, there's a formula. Denard was with me with Mark, and so we kind of have an idea of what we want to do. We just got to get the kid in, give him some wins, get his confidence up, and let him go forward.
What are some of those?
So that is Frank Bush, who is the off-ball linebacker coach for this team in his, I believe, 3rd stint with the organization, going back to one with the Oilers, one with the Titans initially, and then another one with his 2nd stint here with Tennessee. So Kenneth Murray is most likely, in my opinion, the most likely contract that they have to bust here. Now, Pro Football Focus, just looking at the grades, okay, as an off-ball linebacker for Kenneth Murray, he is never rated particularly well. He does not have a grade higher than a 54.4 in any point in his career, and that was his best grade as a rookie of 54.4. Again, Pro Football Focus grades are not everything, but last year was the closest that he has been since then. His career worst was 2021, and in 2023 he had a solid but anything but spectacular performance where he was a serviceable piece, but really didn't seem to gel with the role that they drafted him into. He's 6'2", 241. He's got good size. He's got great athletic ability. The problem is they need to find the best role to allow him to operate freely. And in order for them to find the best role for him, they have to have somebody as a running mate for him, whether it's Cedric Gray or Otis Reese or Jack Gibbons, somebody who is reliable and solid and consistent there, who can make up for some of the variance that Kenneth Murray is going to provide. Now, because they have equally as big a question mark with their other off-ball linebacker, if they're in base defense, right now, as they do with Kenneth Murray, I think it's reasonable to be suspicious about what the Titans currently have, both in the draft class and have added in free agency. And I would probably put Kenneth Murray among the biggest bust potential there prior to this season beginning. Is Jalen Ramsey still a top 5 cornerback, says Eric Alonso? It's a good question. And has he been a top 5 cornerback? Because going back to our conversation about the variance with the cornerback position, there were moments with Los Angeles where Jalen Ramsey got taken for a ride the same way that any cornerback did. I think that there are moments when he's been played out of position. I think Miami was trying to figure him out last year and did so with some reasonable success. When they were healthy, they were a good defense last year under Vic Fangio. Now, he, of course, left and has gone to Philadelphia this offseason. But Jalen Ramsey has had stretches where he is a top 5 corner. But to say that he's done it for more than 3 years in a row at any given point is really, I think pretty consistent with how hard it is to maintain that level of play. But I wouldn't say that Jalen Ramsey has been a top 5 corner for any stretch longer than a 3-year period at any given point, right? Where he's had some dips in his production. He's had a nice and long career at this point, the former first-round pick out of Florida State, and, of course, Nashville, Tennessee product as well. I'm pretty sure he's from Smyrna, if I remember correctly. Anyway, let's wrap things up with a gone viral video here tonight on the program. What's the best thing you saw on the internet this week? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll talk about it right after I remind you, Bert, teasing you a little bit, that the primetime program is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Remember, if you are in the Nashville real estate market, don't sell without the intel. And you can only get the intel that is provided at GaryAshton.com. The official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators is the main man himself, Gary Ashton, and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, the best in the business. Trust the Ashton team and get your dream address without the stress today. Okay. What is the best thing that you saw on the internet this week? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Sports related, non-sports related. Mine are the sounds of summer. Fireworks are what a lot of people associate with summertime, especially with the 4th of July less than a month away. So anytime you are participating in firework related activities, you must have some degree of safety protocol, which is not the case for this family, which this video goes viral during the summer every year consistently around this time of year, and it brings me great joy to watch it. But it just reminds us, Jason Pierre-Paul or otherwise, to have great caution when operating the fireworks, because the fireworks can very quickly get out of hand. It is just so incredibly over the top, especially when they get under, the fireworks get under the car there and then very quickly seem to explode the gas tank. Marv says put it in reverse, Terry. Not even Terry. The reverse speed that would be required to get out of there in a timely fashion. Thank you, Bert, for doing some actual production tonight. But I think that for all the summertime celebrations, fireworks are always the most fun. They are certainly the most dangerous. So if you're going to be operating with fireworks, be careful out there. Harry says on YouTube, how do you explain that to your insurance? You don't. Well, you do just that. You show them the Ring camera footage that they appear to have and say, what are you going to do? That's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. Radio is off tomorrow. We are off tomorrow. There is no radio show. There is no install. There is no primetime. Tomorrow is a corporate holiday, so we will be out of commission, but we will rejoin you on Thursday for the radio show and for a primetime episode. We will also have an episode of the 615 sessions this week. So enjoy the day away from me. I will certainly enjoy my time, my one day off here tomorrow, and we'll certainly look forward to catching up on some errands and things like that. But we will talk to you tomorrow night on Thursday morning on 104.5 The Zone at 10 a.m. See you guys then.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!